What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys been having a good week. Good start to your fall. I know down here hadn't really felt like fall yet, but it's coming. My wife and I, we just come back from North Carolina, and all the leaves were turning up there, and I think it got down to 40 degrees the other night when we were up there, and so it's definitely coming, but it hadn't made its way down here yet, but I'm certainly looking forward to it. One of the things I wanted to go over today is coverage area. And I know some of you guys have been in the game for a long time, so you probably don't need to hear this video, but I think it'd be certainly beneficial to people just starting out. I know I'm on these Facebook groups, and I see all the time, people who are thinking about getting into it, they ask a question about getting into it, and they'll get 20 comments on there about, oh, stay out of it, it's this, it's dead, it's all this. And to be honest, I'm not trying to hear that stuff. You can make it in this business. There's no reason why anybody with a work ethic can't make it in this business. Now, I learned really, really quick that the biggest way to hurt me in this business was by not being willing to do whatever it took. I know I spent 7 years in the military, most of my youth and early adulthood in the military, so and that was something I did not want to do for the rest of my life. So when I come back home, I was willing to do whatever it took, because I knew, worst come to worst, I was gonna have to go back in the military. Now, the military's good, did me a lot of good. I just didn't like being away. I'm just an old Southern boy, and I like being at home. So, I got into this. Originally, I had a landscaping company, and I actually had a landscaping company up until 2 years ago. And I'd done both of them in tandem for a long time before I shut the landscape company down. And I dropped a bunch of customers and let a bunch go to do this. And obviously I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't, lucrative. So, but what I wanted to talk to you guys about was when you're first getting into it, how I approached it. And it's worked. I've got, one of my good friends, he works with me. He covers a different part of the state than I do, but he covers it under the umbrella of my company. And he does a phenomenal job, and he jumped into it just the exact same way that I did, the way that I told him I did, and the way that I told him worked. And he has been a busy man, and he has made a good living for himself. Another one of my good friends who's in the very southern part of the state has done the exact same thing with the exact same advice. And it takes about 30-60 days from the time that you make the commitment for it to really start paying off. And when it starts paying off, you better be ready to go. You better have all your ducks in a row, your tools bought, your truck filled with gas, have a trailer, and be ready to rock and roll. So, when I got into this, I originally just was in the county that I live in. There wasn't a whole lot going on. And it took me a couple of months of doing that, kind of getting my feet wet, but not really. And to be honest, I was kind of like, gosh, this ain't worth it. This is just, this stuff right here is for the birds. And then, because I didn't know anything, I had no idea about the allowables. I had no idea about repair base. I didn't know how to properly bid things. I didn't know jack about jack. And there was nobody to ask. There was nobody to call. There's no pamphlet to read. There's nothing. So I was just kind of winging it. And I really wasn't all that impressed. So I finally, stumbled around and got a decent job. And I was like, holy crap, if you play your cards right in this game, you can make some money. And so I decided then that I was just gonna go crazy with it, and that I was gonna cover a 2-hour circle around where I was standing. So I got on the map and I looked around and found some different cities that I felt like were probably about 2 hours away. I put them in my MapQuest, boom, 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 pulled them up, hour, 56 minutes, check, look what county it was in, boom. Every county in between me and there, I added. And at this time, I didn't have but a couple employees, so, and I didn't have but 2 trucks, so I did that. And originally, like right at the beginning, stuff kind of trickled in, and it sucked because I'd have to drive 2 hours to go do one thing. But I was like, I just knew if I just stuck with it, it would pay off. So that was what I'd done. I just stuck with it. 6, 7 months later, I had so much stuff going on. I mean, we could have worked 7 days a week, 29 hours a day, and still not been caught up. And like, and I'm just being that serious. Like, it was insane how much work just started getting dumped on me. But the benefit of that was it put me in contact with all the companies that I had, onboarded with, and I was on the phone with them. I was learning their expectation. I was learning the allowables. I was learning how to properly bid stuff, and I was plucking them for information too. How can I do this to be the best? How can I do this? How do I need to do this to make it easier on you guys when you're processing? Oh, I got a rejection. I've got to go back an hour and a half to do this. Fine, I'm on my way. Just tell me what I need to do so that I don't make this same mistake again. And I did that. And we done that for years, at least 2 years of the whole 2-hour thing. And gosh, I worked nonstop, a lot of hours. And I felt like one day it would pay off, and kind of my game plan was is once I felt comfortable with what I was doing and I had gotten enough work in the area that I really wanted to cover, that I would just draw back. So that was what I'd done. And when I drew back, I was nervous at first because I knew how much work I was giving up. But my employees were tired. I was tired. My equipment's just getting rode hard and hung out wet. So I drew it back, and I lost a little bit of work. My accounts receivables went down, but once I drew it back, I focused on doing better work, spending more time on things, doing better work. And I was okay with my, accounts receivables dropping a little bit. And so that was what I done. And the employees that I had when we were running, I've kept the same amount of employees. In fact, I've had to hire somebody else since then, so, but when we drew it back and now it's more manageable, the most we drive now is an hour and 15 minutes, and that's pushing it. But it's a comfortable area that we cover. It's we're very, very familiar with it, and we've just had pretty good success as far as covering it. And it's, we have a city of about 220,000 people, and then all of the suburbs that surround it. Right above that's another city with about 60,000 people, and then 45 minutes to the right of it's where I live, and I live in a city that's kind of has another city joining it, so together it's about 80,000 people. And below me is another city with another 40,000, and that's pretty much it. So, but it's funny because some of these properties we've been doing recurring services on since the very beginning. Some of them we've had for years. I know at least 2 right now that I could say we've had for 4 years. So they don't just always go away. So quickly. Sometimes you'll get a property, you'll secure it, and the next day that's hey, this one's in post sale, so you'll go do the final secure. You'll remove the stuff, and then it's gone. Boom. Just like that. Some of them linger around for a while. So if you're just getting started and you're thinking about your coverage area, my advice would be jump out. Now, you don't want to get crazy with it. You don't want it to be something that you can't do, but you want to push yourself. You really do. You want to go right to the edge of what you can do, and you want to stop, and you want to go. And you want to get it done. You want to make some money. You want to learn everything that you can possibly learn. Get as good as you can possibly get. get familiar with everybody that you're working for, earn their confidence, earn their trust, and then hone it back to something that's a little bit more manageable. And I'm sure there's people out there who would never do a lot of the things that I've done, or they would call me crazy or this, that, and the other. But look, I don't care. What's worked for me is worked for me. My family's taken care of, and that's what matters. And here's the deal: I'm happy. I enjoy doing what I do. But I mean, they call me right now and ask me to go 2 hours away to go do something. And if it's for a company whom I do a tremendous amount of work for, I'm not going to tell them no. I'm just not going to do it. They're the ones who pay the bills. And the way that I look at it, my dad told me a long time ago, if they're the customer, they're always right. And that's just the way it is. And when setting money aside, I've, always tried to live to that. If it's going to hurt me financially, or if it's not going to be beneficial for me financially, then I would have to negotiate something. But most of the time, they're always open to negotiating something to make it financially beneficial for you. So it's really not that big of a deal. But if you're jumping in this because, you're not the most ambitious, or you're not willing to put in those 14, 16-hour days to get started, then I think it would just be a really, really, really slow go for you if you're not willing to put it in like that. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. If it's something that's beneficial to you, that's great. If not, I'm sorry that I wasted your time, but that was the way that I went about it. And that's the way that, 3 of my contractors, whom I all know personally, that's the way that they've went about it. And, including myself, we've all had a reasonable amount of success going about it that way. If you're okay with waking up early and coming home late, and you can do that, and you can spend a little bit of time doing that, looking at the big picture, then I think you'll get where you want to go, and I think you'll learn a lot in the process. And make sure you've got some money set back when you get started, because it takes money to make money, which I'm sure all you guys know. So that's just my opinion. I hope it helps. I do try to help people because I know what a hard time I had when I got started. There just wasn't any help. And, the people who seem like they do it, I'm not even so sure that they do it, because most of the people never had anything positive to say. It was just all negative. So I love this industry. I think you can make a good living in it. I think you just have to be able to, got to be willing to clean some dirty toilets, and you got to be willing to work hard. And, it is what it is. But, jump out there, get you something, go do it. Get your feet wet, get where you want to get, and dial it back. That's my advice. I hope you guys, have a good rest of your week, and I'm sure you're all looking forward to the cooler weather too. So, bye.